Hello, Frederik Wiedmann. Thank you so much for speaking with the Nerds of Color today. How are you?
My pleasure, and I'm good. How are you?
I'm really good speaking to you. I'm a huge Batman fan from Batman the Animated Series when I was a kid, and I'm so excited for Caped Crusader. Congratulations on the gig. And I love your music from the Dragon Prince, from DC animated films, and also shout out to Green Lantern the Animated Series. You composed such amazing things for that. I'm so excited to be
Thank
speaking
you.
with you.
Thank you so much. That's so kind to hear. And yes, who isn't a fan of Batman the animated series,
I mean, yeah,
right?
yeah, it's the
Like
go in many
everyone.
ways.
Yeah.
So, just in general, how does it feel to be part of the legacy of DC film and TV, including legends like John Williams, Danny Elfman, Shirley Walker for the animated series, and more? Specifically, what was your first Batman media that you saw as a kid, and who was the composer for that project?
So that was multiple questions. Let me start with the first
Sorry.
one. Yeah, no, that's fine. So it feels amazing. It's an unbelievable honor, and it feels like one of those things that you have to constantly pinch yourself that this is actually happening. Because when you're in film music school, I was at Berklee College of Music in Boston. It's it's one of those things you're like, yeah, I'll never do Batman. I'll be doing like little indies, and that's gonna be my life probably while admiring John Williams, Alan Silvestri, and God knows who. And then you come out here and you know, fast forward 20 years of my career, and I'm working on Batman and other DC things and Star Trek, and it's just like, wow, I can't believe this is all happening. I just the only thing missing on my bucket list is Star Wars, so I'm still working
Yeah.
on that. that's uh
Yeah.
that's Star Wars and Marvel, so those two are still up for grabs for me, which is good. You always gotta have things to aim for, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
um, and in terms of my first, my entry to DC and Batman itself, I think, just like you already said, is Batman the animated series, because that's the cartoon that I grew up with as a kid in Germany, and that's to me still to this day. Since maybe it's because it was the first Batman that I ever saw religiously, or if it's just because it's that good. It just to me became that's the quintessential Batman show. Down to the music, down to the acts, performances,
Yep.
and everything. It seems like that's the yardstick we all have to look at for whatever is considered a good Batman property. So I think that was my entry, and music, as we know, is by Shirley Walker and the theme by Danny Elfman. So doesn't really get better than that. It's as iconic to me as Jaws. If you think of
Yeah.
Batman and you don't hum da 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 da, then I don't know what you're doing. It seems to be like that's just what it is. That's the sound of Batman, defined forever in history, etched in stone. Do what you want with
Is
it.
Yeah, it's so good. But obviously you have to do your own thing. You can't
Yeah.
simply be putting the theme in. Maybe you'll do a hint of it here or there, but just in general, for Caped Crusader, how does your music stand out, would you say, while still paying homage to what came before?
So, the main concept was from the very beginning that it will be a period piece taking place in the 1940s. And so we wanted it to feel that way from an artistic point of view too, musically speaking. So the music had to evoke that noir 1940s detective movie vibe, which is a tricky thing to do because aesthetics have changed so much over the years. Film aesthetics and the audience's aesthetics too. While movies in the 40s, they were often a little bit overscored to the point where to today's standards it would be considered over the top.
Hmm.
Like if you think about the thing when you say something bad is happening and you go dun dun dun, that to me comes from that era, because back then this was totally
Hmm.
acceptable to do that when the bad guy or a monster or Godzilla or God knows who comes on screen. That's what you do. You have the trombones do that. And today you can't really do that anymore without triggering a laugh. And we didn't want that. We wanted to be taken
Right.
completely seriously. So the challenging thing for me was to keep the 1940s score integrity, which all goes down to orchestration, the melodies, harmonies, all these things. That but somehow bring some of it into the current timeline so that modern audiences can still relate to it and still find it dark
Hmm.
and scary and serious, because that's ultimately what we want it to be. There was nothing supposed to be comical about any of this. So I had
Yeah.
to tread lightly on that and make sure I don't step over that line. and make something comical by accident. So that was the big challenge. And so that in itself isn't really that unique of a concept. You know, I think Batman the animated series has a quasi 1940s sound in places, although it wasn't really designed, I think, with that in mind 100%. It just kind of happened to be like that because it matched the visuals and whatnot.
Hmm.
But for us, it was a clear direction we wanted to go. We wanted to be bold with that right from the get-go. And you can hear that in the main title, which was released yesterday.
Yeah.
You know, I was completely horrified when that came out. I was like, "Oh my God, are they gonna show up with pitchforks at my house?" Because Batman fans are they love this genre and Batman the animated series so much, and bless them for doing so. Thank God these fans exist because that's who I'm working for ultimately. So when they released that, I was like, "Oh my God, are they gonna like go crazy?" Because it's nothing like Batman the animated series, where you have a rousing
Hmm.
heroic theme setting up our hero. We're very much a slow piece. It is thematic. There's a tune in there, but it is brooding, atmospheric. It is noir and it's dark, and that's who we want Batman to be from the beginning of our series. He's not an action hero right from the get-go. When he's popping out of the shadows, it's not da 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 da, here comes Batman. It's more like, who the heck is this? And he's really scary because
Hmm.
he's so obscure. So we're almost treating him like a horror villain in
Yeah.
musically in the first few episodes because everyone's scared of him. They legitimately have a fear of who this guy is, and he's so violent, and he just pops up out of nowhere, and we don't know who is behind this mask. So this sort of level of darkness and obscurity and and the scariness of it, I think, had to be in the main title, and that was kind of our idea.
Yeah.
Like, we're setting this up as that, not as he's not Batman as we know him today, the hero that everybody counts on. He's not that yet. He may become that along the way, but for us, he's a dark detective who's in Gotham doing his thing, and people are afraid. So, and that's what the main title is supposed to do. And I'm really glad to. I've been stopping myself from reading any comments because I was like, I'm not going to be happy reading any of this. But it
Well, do
turns
you
out
mind if
people.
I say how I thought about it?
I
I
would
thought it
love
was
to.
amazing. It was amazing. It was beautiful.
Okay.
It hit the vibe perfectly. Just those opening credits and like obviously the music. It was well done to you and the
Thank
whole
you.
team.
I mean, it's different, and I hope people appreciate that we're doing something somewhat of a throwback to the original show, which people love, but also doing a little bit of a different approach to it. Because ultimately, if we're doing the same thing over and over again, it's why are we even doing it? So I think you
Eh,
have to have a
yeah.
bit of a different point of view for it to be fresh, while still maintaining the integrity that hopefully we still have, which is this, the Batman from that era who's a detective with his
Yeah.
gadgets and whatnot. So yeah, it seems like people picked up on it. What I've been reading has been positive, and people understand. Oh yeah, this is cool. I like this. This is more noir. The noir Batman, which is a cool one. Like, people
Hmm.
understood it, and I was really happy to read that they weren't too upset about it not being a rousing heroic theme. Trust me, there was one in the beginning when we messed around with it. I wrote several different
Hmm.
versions of this, and it started off with that da 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 kind of idea, and then we
Hmm.
just all looked at it and was like, this is not the Batman we have in the first couple episodes, or all in season one. Really,
Hmm.
you can't really do that. So Bruce's idea and James's idea was to um, keep it slow, like make it very hypnotic and dark, and I think it's a great approach.
Yeah, agreed. I think that we haven't seen enough of the detective aspect of Batman, that more subdued angle that the show really seems to be leaning into. I'm really intrigued to finally watch it. And just for reference, like our editor-in-chief, Keith Chow, he loved the series and yeah, made me even more amped for it.
He's watched some
So
of it. He got some screeners.
yeah, he got screeners. Yeah.
Okay, good, good,
Yeah.
good. Glad to hear it.
Yeah. So, who are some of your favorite characters to compose certain themes for? Whether that's Batman or any of the villains, or yeah. It-
I think if you're doing anything Batman related, the most fun thing for any composer is all the gallery of villains, because there's so many and they're all so incredibly interesting.
yeah.
And while some of them have been done before by other composers and other versions of the show, like Catwoman is a popular one. The Joker is very much done before many times, and every single version of it is, I think, amazing and different. Like, just I thought Shirley Walker's version was great. Hans Zimmer's version was insanely cool. I mean, there's so many good ideas behind that character. So getting to work on those, I think, is a treat for me because I really get to be in the sandbox of all these great other composers and these interesting characters. And in our show, we have some that are more obscure and lesser known, which is even more
Mhm.
fun because there's less to hold on to and less to be referenced to. You know, I can't remember the last time I saw Firebug in a Batman scenario on
Right.
screen. It's probably been a minute. And so coming up with something for him was great because I got the producers input on who they want this person to be, which is this really, really scary, dark character, but he has these ominous, childlike characteristics. He's almost like a kid, you know. He's got this really weird, creepy, innocent side to him, and he's also very short in comparison to the other
Mhm.
characters. So he almost feels like a child, although he's not. So the music, we chose it. We chose the music to be this creepy children's choir lullaby that sort of accompanies his insane actions of burning down entire buildings with people inside. And it just added so much to the creepiness of that of him, which was
Yeah.
really cool. Another one that I loved was Natalia, who's also not very much, you know, doesn't have a lot of screen presence in previous versions, I think. So that was another one that was kind of a fresh one for me. You know, I've scored like 13 or 14 DC animated movies, and none of these have ever showed up in any of these. So it was nice to just start off with something completely new. So she needed to be very pretty and beautiful, but she also has the seductive quality, and obviously she's a really, really creepy, dark, scary character too, because she kills people.
Mhm.
And so that had to be that theme. It had to be very hypnotic and almost seductive, pretty, and all those things. And then lastly, I think one of my absolute favorites of this first season is Catwoman. No, Catwoman has been done before, which is why I really wanted to do something different with it. So I
Mhm.
was sitting in my studio with my solo violin, trying to come up with some ideas, and I was thinking, I asked myself that question, like, what? Let's be very literal for a moment. Which instrument can sound like a cat meowing? You know, as cheesy and silly that sounds for a moment. So I came up with these violent phrases that went like yeah, yeah, which is almost like
Yeah.
a meowing type sound. And then I thought, well, what if 40 people play that together like an orchestra? So I went to
Mhm.
my orchestra overseas. I booked just an experiment session for that particular theme, and we just, you know, did some stuff with that idea. And what emerged was this really cool, sexy theme that I think works perfectly for her because it's got the thief, heisty aspect of it. It really feels like violence that are meowing like a cat, and it fit like a glove on that character. So I that's what we went with, and I'm really happy with how that one turned out. I think it's a cool one.
You're definitely putting your own stamp on these villains, especially
Yeah.
the lesser known ones. I will say, when you talked about Catwoman's theme, that does remind me of Danny Elfman's theme in Batman Returns for her. But no, you're still like doing something distinct with this. I'm so looking forward to seeing what it is. Like basically great minds think alike in that
Yes.
sense.
I
The
guess so. Yeah.
violence.
Hopefully not
Yeah.
too alike.
Not too alike. I'm sure it won't be too alike. I just like love the it's pulling from the same DNA intentionally or unintentionally, but just that like the greatness is there. I'm just so excited to listen to it. So and the last question that I have is just like more broadly about Batman himself. So, you know, there's been discourse here and there, you know, in fandom talking about, you know, criticisms of Batman, how he may go about crime fighting. Is he, at least as we knew him before, really that applicable to today? But Batman is still so popular and Batman just resonates still with so many. So for you, why do you think Batman is so important in that way?
Wow, that's a good question. I mean, why is something popular and other things aren't? I guess it's hard to say. I think we all are exposed to it at an early age because it's existed for so long, and we all grow up watching some version of it with our parents or with, you know, with your dad or mom or whatever, or your siblings. Um, And I think what history has also proven is that you can constantly reinvent this character to be something different that is still extremely intriguing, even if you're used to something old. I think the most recent examples are perfect for, you know, looking like Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy, where I've never seen anything like that in terms of the style and the tone of the whole thing. Yet it was absolutely fitting, and I personally am a huge fan of everything about that. And then what Matt Reeves just did with the Batman a couple of years ago, I thought again was an incredibly different take
So good.
and so good. Like I was like, wow, you can really take this character and shape it from whatever artistic point of view you come from, and make it a cool character while still maintaining the broad idea of what Batman is, which is a rich kid vigilante who's completely traumatized by the death of his parents, and then acting in the way he does. Keeping those sort of origin elements the same, and maybe that's what it is. It kind of Batman can evolve with the zeitgeist and be still part of our world without ever feeling outdated or old-fashioned or anything. It just constantly seems to evolve with us in a way that is just constantly intriguing and appealing and exciting to watch. I mean, I'm already excited to see what Matt Reeves does next, and then I'm even more excited to see whichever fantastic director takes this on after him. Maybe 10
Yeah.
years from now, when we're done with the Matt Reeves arc, we'll do something else, and who knows what it's going to be. But I know it's going to be something really cool, and I'm definitely going to be there to watch it.
That's really the strength about DC and the multiverse, is that you have so many different versions of these characters, but they're all rooted in the same core aspects of who they are, and they're just applicable to so many different situations. And like you've again composed for so many DC films and TV that this variety of interpretation.
Yeah. And I mean, look at the Joker. I mean, that's a perfect example too. Who would have thought people would be so interested in a movie just about him without even a
Yeah.
Batman in sight? I mean, that movie was phenomenal, and just
Mhm.
the take on him, on why he became the way he is, it's just super interesting. And so the whole movie felt so contemporary to me in terms of its problems, the issues he's facing in a society very similar to ours. I thought it was very relatable and just an amazing perspective on that character. So I say let's keep searching and exploring this material for as long as we can, because it just keeps getting more and more
Absolutely.
interesting. And in our show too, I think it's, again, while it's leaning heavily on Batman the animated series in tone and style a little bit too, it still feels it's like its own thing and has its own merit to stand on its own legs. And
Totally. Yeah.
again, super exciting to just be doing something like this.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to watch it. I'm so excited for people to see it. And yeah, I can't wait to listen to it and just have the soundtrack on in the background as I work. Frederik
Great.
Wiedmann, thank you so much for doing the Nerds of Color today. Congratulations on the series. And yeah, just can't wait to see what comes next.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me.
For Spider-Man, they didn't mind. The activists, directors, comments and the lectures, fanboys, professional artists and professors. Maybe a nerd who's just like you, talking about the things that you like too. So I invite you to the NOC. In full color, you see me. The hard knock grind.